Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We are here, very on time, feeling great.
Yeah, we're never on time.
This is the most on time. That's because we have a very professional guest who asked to do a tech check several hours ago, and I missed the email, and we did it 20 minutes ago, and here we are, on time, and everyone's looking great.
Oh yeah, it's great.
I do have to noisily make my drink right before we start.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's no reason it has to be noisy. I just didn't do it until now because I was pushing buttons. How you been, Jake?
Oh yeah, I had a weird day. I had a day that started off on the wrong foot. I have two cats who are still dealing with moving stress, and so I didn't sleep very well last night, and then it was like 6 a.m. this morning, and we're lying in bed, and one cat just jumps up on the bed and just goes to the bathroom, just like right here. This is where I'm doing it, and so we're like leaping out of bed and like trying, pulling things off so it doesn't soak through all the layers and all that kind of thing. But we don't have a washing machine here. We do laundry service, right? And so and we don't have all of our spare sheets, so we have one set right now. And so we have to get it washed same day service somewhere, and so we're running around, and I go downstairs and the other cat has gone to the bathroom on the stairs, and it overnight, and it just dripped down the steps.
Every single one.
It was just
wow. You
awful.
You definitely had a day.
Yeah, and then one had a big throw up. The pets were just not having a good Saturday, and so
the humans are okay.
Yeah, the humans are okay, and I'm very excited to be here now doing this instead of the other things that I had to do. Oh yeah.
Well, that was different than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, how do you like that? That's a good preamble. Good, just work it into the show a little bit.
Totally.
Work the audience.
That is not in the show content.
With some cat urination stories, it's good. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm out of practice.
A long and stressful day, but I had fun with the NASA Spaceflight guys. That was fun. But other things are just, And then just before I came on here, finally, my passport that I sent off for renewal 6 months ago arrived. I have a passport again, and that's been stressing me out every day not having that, because I'm a dual citizen, British American. I have a mid-80s-year-old mother in England, and so not being able to maybe make a quick trip to the UK is stressful, and
also there's zero visibility into the passport process. I just did this maybe a month before you in the timeline, so it was exactly. I totally forgot that I sent my passport out, and then it arrived back, and I was like, oh yeah, I did renew that. That's great.
So I've been stressing about it every day, so so suddenly it's oh, okay, my internal stress level just went way down. So that's nice. So I'm chill right now.
Is that COVID delays that they're taking so long, or is that normal?
It's not normal. It's not normal. It
always takes longer than you would want, but
I think maybe Trump administration general running down of the competency of the government.
They also, it is weird, because everything was shut down for a while, and I guess they just had a big backlog. Everyone that passports usually expired, they didn't realize it because nobody was looking at their passports for 2 years.
Right. Well, that's what happened to me. I normally renew 6 months early, right? But this time
you weren't even thinking about it.
I wasn't even thinking about it. And then suddenly I had the thought, went, let's see when I need to renew my passport. Oh, last month.
Yeah, right. It's expired already.
Yeah. So. Okay. That's much better.
Yeah.
I pushed all the buttons.
Officially kick off the storm.
The storm.
Show?
The storm. It's pretty loud.
That's pretty loud. Yeah.
I feel like when I restored this Mac from a backup, it did not restore the volume limit in Farrago.
Negative return.
Oh yeah, that's great. Technology, man. What are we gonna do with it?
And we see a nominal Miko. Welcome to space.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Off-Nominal. We are super, super excited to be here with you today. It's been a long week, Anthony, of tense space news, maybe. I think it's not the space news that everyone there's space news that's good, and then there's bad space news that people like to hate, and then there's not good space news, and this is a not good news.
Truly horrible space news.
Just straight up not good, barely worth making any jokes about, but we're gonna try really hard.
sure we can find a
We're
way.
gonna thread that needle. Of course, we're here with Jonathan McDowell, the man behind the McDowell line, which I know is a thing that the off-nominal community loves. So let that sit with you, Jonathan. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm in a good mood right now. It's Saturday night, and yeah, let's chill and talk about space. Which once you get me started, I warn you, it's hard to stop me. So
that's what we're here for.
That is what we're.
That's literally what we're here for. But we knew that you needed like a chill Saturday night because we could tell early on this week that it was going to be a week for you. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, like Monday morning, you wake up and suddenly your email box is full of media requests. Like, oh, what happened?
And Jake was like, "Do you think Jonathan should come on the show?" I'm like, "He's probably busy, but let's see if he's up for it because he could use a hangout session like later on to commiserate." I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally. So, and my role is to try and tell it like it is. Give the historical context and not, there's been a lot of nonsense spoken this week about, the evil Russians, and indeed they are, but, we're not lily white. So you need to look at it in the context of, anti-satellite tests, which is what we're talking about, anti-satellite tests since 1959. Right.
Yeah, I got some stuff to say about the whole situation there. I got some things I would like to run by you too, but okay, let's do the drinks first before we get too far in. Jake, did you pick up anything interesting there?
I did, yeah. So as I explore this new craft beer market here in the Yucatan, Mexico, I'm learning that the craft breweries are like way more legitimately craft breweries than they were in Vancouver, because like Vancouver is like a big thing.
It's industrial craft.
Yeah, so like the craft local beer is like a pretty big brewery with a restaurant and attached bar that serves half of Canada, right? And that's like, it's basically Anheuser-Busch with better labels. So here it's like legitimately people's homes. They just like some guy with a garage. So this is the first one, maybe. Yeah. Okay, and then
the flying hippopotamus was really throwing me for a loop. I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's weird, right? And I tried to Google what a Feldegriff was, and the only thing I got was some Magic the Gathering cards. So,
so that's probably
seems legit.
Yeah. The thrust to weight ratio there does not look great.
Yeah, and then this is the backup. It's Satiro, so this is like a satyr or whatever, right? Yeah. They're pretty cool. Great labels. So this is a Hoppy.
Now, are these like printed off of a regular printer labels?
They look pretty good.
Okay.
I was reading up on the guy, and he had like a friend that did the labels or whatever. So
nice.
But this one's really interesting because
we're getting confirmation that is a Magic the Gathering situation.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I
don't know if you can read it here. It says it's a Jamaica ale, which is people drink a lot of agua de Jamaica here, which is basically hibiscus tea in water. So we'll see. We'll see what that tastes like. I don't know. It may be good. It may be awful.
You got way more adventurous when you moved down there. It's great.
I did, yeah. It's gonna be fun. So I'm gonna start with the Hoppy Weed Ale, and then we'll go to the weird one at the end. So, yeah. What do you
Jonathan, I've seen a mug over there.
Yeah, I've got actually like 3 different drinks here.
Oh wow, overachiever! Gosh,
I'm descended from a long line of alcoholics, and so I don't drink. But so I have I've been sipping my my Genmai cha. Which is a green tea with brown rice, brewed with brown rice.
Okay, I was gonna say it's in there.
Oh, it's and that just gives the green tea a little bit of a, I don't know, kind of a barbecue taste. So it's not quite, but like a little roasted taste, and it's just a very nice, soothes my esophagus going down, helps de-stress.
Good after a long week, right?
And then because I also might need sugar to get through this, I've got my Orangina, which is this like Fanta-like drink, but it's from France. And
yeah, it's fancier.
It's fancier, but it also, it brings me back to my youth. At bistros in Boulevard Saint-Germain and crêperies on the Rue Mouffetard. Paris was a very important part of my growing up. And so mentally, a sip of this nice sort of sugary, fizzy orange drink instantly brings me back to that part of
You're like the scene from Ratatouille when he has the, I guess Ratatouille, right? That then shoots him back to his childhood. I don't know. Hasn't nobody's Ratatouille?
Oh yeah, no, great movie, fantastic movie.
I haven't seen it actually. Yeah,
okay.
I don't know.
It's worth your time. I'll be honest.
It's worth my time.
Okay,
so that's what I brought for you. Brown rice, green tea, and French fizzy pop.
That's a powerful mix. I'll be honest. I have a gin and tonic tonight, Jake. I don't think I've ever broken out something not beer and wine on the show, but I had some limes round. I've got a fancy shirt on because I'm fresh out of a Friendsgiving. So here I am, gin and tonic and all.
I love it. You look really sharp too. I love the collar.
Got a collar, very professional.
It's just like one level up on the dial of handsomeness today for me. It's good, yeah.
All
right.
Meanwhile, I have a Star Trek shirt. That's how classy I am.
Yeah, it's par for the course there.
Yeah.
We were just discussing that. I nearly wore that one, but
that would have been really funny actually if we showed up with the same shirt.
Jake, you're gonna have to go right over your shoulder into your wardrobe back there that everyone can see on camera.
Yeah.
If you ended up with the same shirt on.
I would have to.
There's still work in your background. You got some work to do in the background.
It's
in
working on it. We'll get there.
All right, can I bring up my first topic of I need to settle some stuff with you two here?
Yes, let's unpack.
Let's go.
The anti-satellite. I'm gonna see. I almost fell for it, Jake. This is my bugaboo this week. Everybody calls it an anti-satellite test, and this annoys me because in every other area of life, a test is when you do a thing fake and it doesn't have the actual effect as it would if you actually did the thing. Like I said on my main podcast this week, if you tested a nuke by blowing up a city and killing hundreds of millions of people, that would not be a test. That would just be you nuked a city. So I would like to call these anti-satellite operations. I would not like to call it a test anymore.
Yeah, and that's actually what I have on my webpage now, anti-satellite operations.
This is what I'm talking about right here.
But I will defend test.
All right, let's go.
2 grounds. One is, this was a test. This is blowing up a Russian satellite was a test for blowing up an American satellite, which would have had much bigger consequences.
That's true. Okay, right? So you're more worried about the knock-on effects, not necessarily orbitally.
If you consider this as a weapon system, right? You're testing the weapon system to show that it works, rather than using it operationally in a war. All right, so that's it.
People in the chat are saying demonstration, which I think is a middle ground here.
Yeah, that
right?
You can also, but also there's a use of test that's a little different from the one you're saying, right? Which is traditional in the missile world. If you go to Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, say, and that every launch has a test number, because in the early days in the 50s it really was testing, right?
This is, by the way, the only person that would know this, and probably has a list of them all, like, on his hard drive right now.
Yeah, and so this is like test number 6543 because they never grew out of calling it a test, right?
They're worse than Google, man. This is like
and so I think in the missile field there is a sense in which test just means launch.
Well, right? I think that's some bullshit.
Conservatism, right? Because it reminds you that space is hard.
Oh, my other least favorite one, but that's an argument for another time. I just think,
I
mean, in the same way, I'm actually mad about these two things for the same reason, because I think it lets you off the hook by calling it a test. It like downgrades the effects that this actually has on the orbital environment, which is why I'm bothered by it.
Maybe you could call it a failed test.
A failed test.
Yeah. Well, it's a test of the weapon system. It's a launch.
Yeah.
And it's a debris event.
It's a debris event. Yeah. Or Jake, what's the dust storms on Mars now? They're the globe encircling.
Planet encircling dust event.
Yes. There you go. This is a planet encircling debris event.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Event is a good wishy-washy word. Or it's an orbital cluster. No, I can't say that. Yeah,
you can on this show, but that's actually great.
Stronger words that one could use. Let's say.
Yeah.
Jake, I haven't really heard your thoughts on this situation this week.
Well, I don't play in this space the way you do, so like I haven't like cooked up a good hot take, but like it's bad. Like I don't like it. That's my hot take. I don't like what happened this week. It I was just like, I don't know. The first thing that just struck me as bizarre, even though when I plotted out the logic, I was like, I got there. Like I was like, oh yeah, I understand how this happened, but I don't understand why they would endanger their own space asset, right? And then I started to think about it, and it's like, well, actually, it's not Roscosmos that did this test. It's the Russian military. And then I was like, so that would mean they didn't talk to each other. And I was like, oh yeah, I can totally believe that happened. Right?
That seems legit.
Well, that's absolutely right. The military not talking to the civilians and so on, which was an issue in the missile people not talking to the space people was an issue in the 2007 Chinese test as well. Okay. But there's also this thing of like, there's just so what was the risk to the astronauts, right? Was it 1 in 1,000, 1 in 100, 1 in 10, 1 in 2? And what risk would you consider unacceptable? And what's considered an unacceptable risk in the US, the Russians would consider, oh, no big deal. They'll probably be fine. If it's less than 50-50, then they'll probably be fine.
Unless that involves flying on American crew vehicles. Then they're not willing to take the very low, exceptionally low.
That's different. But I think there is there's a real discussion to be had about, are Americans too timid, too easily scared? Russians are real men and women, and don't mind a few 7 kilometers a second pieces of shrapnel flying past their ears, and so that's the argument I think they would make, and so there's that, as well as the siloed, not talking to each other aspect.
Yeah. I was remembering, like, when I read up on old Soviet space history and stuff, just the level of competition and walls between even just the different directorates in the space group, like the different groups of Korolev and the other, design bureaus and stuff. They were not talking to each other either, and they were undermining each other and really, going at it. So.
Well, it's just like in the US, right? The saying in the Air Force used to be, the opposition are the Soviets, but the enemy is the Navy. and in the Soviet Union, it was the opposition are the Americans, but the enemy are the other design bureau. And yes, you had Korolev and Chelomai and Yangel, and they were all jockeying for the contracts and jockeying for, they each had a person in the Politburo that was their patron, and when Khrushchev, right, Chelomai got Khrushchev's son working in his bureau. And so when Khrushchev was in the ascendant, Chelomai got lots of contracts. And when Khrushchev was ousted,
nothing, cut out.
Things went back to, and Ustinov got into a senior position. Then suddenly Korolev was on the up and Chelomai was on the outs. And so that's just, that was very much how it worked in the Soviet era, and that was really a lot of what it was about. The Americans were a footnote.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that's the group of people who just put 2,000 pieces of space debris in orbit. That's should be a good end to that, right?
What do you make of this recent analysis that it was a rear end collision, essentially, where the satellite ran into the weapon itself?
So I think what happened. So the satellite's going at 17,000 miles an hour, right?
Satellite will be faster
over Russia, and the rocket launches northward from Plesetsk, and it does it a little earlier, and it gets to apogee and kind of hangs there as one does at apogee, and the satellite runs
to plow through it.
Yeah, and that seems to be the most likely reconstruction of what's going on. So it's not like sometimes you had, I think, for example, the Indian ASAT test. The satellite was coming north over the Indian Ocean, and the rocket launched south and met it head on.
Although, didn't it go? I was reading this again. It didn't go directly head on. It actually was like an upward trajectory on the satellite. They said at the time it was head on, but then like when you looked at the imagery they actually captured, which by the way they have like imagery right before they hit the satellite, which is kind of awesome to watch.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's amazing. But in that you can see
right.
They did like analysis of how the solar arrays were angled. That it actually was an upward flying projectile that explained the fact that it didn't take a lot of velocity out of the debris. It actually just like gave it some out of prograde.
I think it doesn't matter much, to be honest, because what happens is you have this hypervelocity impact, you shred the satellite kind of before there's a lot of momentum transfer. What you really have is you just dump a lot of energy into the shredded satellite, and
the corresponding fuel explosion that happens
goes out. Well, even not even fuel. I mean, it's mostly the kinetic energy, right? And so in the satellite's rest frame, or in the rest frame of the collision, it's just like expanding somewhat spherically, and you get energy dumped in all directions. And yeah, there's a bit of momentum transfer going on, but that's not the dominant thing. So you're gonna get some debris going up and some going down, and it just depends on the complicated internal dynamics of the collision.
And that's the crazy thing about like these debris clouds too, because if you know how orbital dynamics work, that means that if you have a bunch of pieces with just slightly different velocity vectors, over time it spreads out into like a whole ring of debris that just fills that whole orbital plane up. It's not like gonna be one spot that goes around where it's like dangerous.
It's not like that out, shit movie Gravity.
No,
up to a point. I mean, so it's interesting because there's several phases, right? And they did a really nice study of this with the Iridium Cosmos collision, which was not an anti-satellite test, or was only accidental anti-satellite test.
It was an anti-satellite operation of some debris.
yeah. And so in the Iridium company flew their satellite directly into a dead Soviet communications satellite for,
as an own goal right there is what we call it in the business.
And so and so what happens is, initially you have this cloud of debris that's kind of somewhat physically localized orbiting around with the and in fact what happens is you have hypersonic shockwaves go through both satellites, and they turn into clouds of debris that then pass through each other and are going largely on the original orbits of the original satellites. And
it's like, man,
there's some mixing, but largely there's just two clouds. And if you look at the orbital elements of the debris, you can very easily tell which pieces came from Iridium, which pieces came from Cosmos, because it was like a 90-degree angle hit. And so then the debris, because there's sort of slightly different orbital periods, they spread out along the orbit, in the orbital plane, but along the orbit. Which is interestingly what we also see with comets and meteor streams, right? Meteor streams come from particles leaving comets, and you see that there's the elliptical orbit of the comet around the sun, and the comets, what's left of the comet, if it still exists, is in one place, but the meteors are just all around. If you like, the mean anomaly is the thing that changes, and all the other orbital elements stay the same, and so you get this ring. And that's why the Earth goes through that orbit every year.
Right, it's always there.
Every year we get a meteor shower as we go through that orbit, never mind the timing of where the comet would have been in that orbit.
Right.
And that's exactly what we saw of the past couple of days with the ASAT, is that the ISS passes through the orbital plane of Cosmos 1408 once in orbit. Right, actually a couple times, but and so the astronauts, every 93 minutes they were getting a warning: you're about to pass through the debris cloud, and that's just the orbital period of the ISS as it goes through the orbital plane.
That's
and so then
disruptive,
you've got it around the orbital plane, but then
it's like the worst version of Lost ever.
Right.
It's not push this button. It's like, please put on a spacesuit and go to your, as the Daily Mail put it, escape pods, which is hilarious to me.
That's exactly correct. And then what happens is this thing called plane drift, which, if you follow the Starlink constellation, people sort of see that's how they use deliberately to kind of go to different orbital planes. And so all the debris is different heights. And so if you wait a few months, the plane drift depends on the height, and so the debris cloud spreads out in longitude, so it's no longer all in one orbital plane. and it becomes a thin shell around the Earth.
It's getting better each detail.
And then orbital decay sets in for the lower perigee objects, and the shell thickens to basically fill all of Leo, and that's on a time scale of a year or so.
Is that the same physics that would make like a sun synchronous satellite change with
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
like it
for a sun
precesses,
synchronous satellite, right? You tune that plane drift to be exactly 1 degree a day.
Yeah.
So that it makes one whole rev each orbit of the Earth around the sun, and that, and how much plane drift you get depends on inclination and height.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you notice, Jake, the stats of sun synchronous, watch for ones that are in like the 600 kilometers. They'll have different inclinations than the ones at 700 or 800 kilometers. Up Jonathan's stats for this.
Yeah, the sun synchronous orbit is one of those things where I forget.
And sun sync,
like
and then I go, okay, and the other special orbit is sun sync. And yeah, you can ask me about that in the questions. It's really, you can do it, especially if you have some kids who are, in a class that one of them can play the sun and one of them can play the Earth, and then you can kind of make them do the right, keep facing one way thing. But yeah, it's not simple to get your head around.
Okay.
Should we get into the conspiracy theories on this? Like the Russia wanted this. What? We got.
I think we have to do at least one or two of them.
Yeah. No, some of the theories out there were great.
Okay.
The Russia hates Starlink theory that was going around Twitter was a fun one, and they just wanted to put a bunch of stuff into the Starlink area. Russia is falling behind, so they just wanted to nuke human spaceflight for everyone. That's a fun one. None of these are particularly motivating to you two, I can tell.
I mean, because you always get these conspiracy theories, and it's every time that something happens in space, someone has some, level of like, when there's a missile
3D
test,
4D
right,
chess,
that we've been waiting for 6 months. Oh, it's in response to this political event. No, they've been planning it for 6 months. It's like, no, they've been working up this missile system with test launches for 6 years now. Now they're ready to actually test it. And it's a target. They've been planning to do this for ages, and it's nothing to do with anything else.
And there's a movement to have a ban on kinetic anti-satellite tests
exactly. So they're getting it
in the next couple of years.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can believe.
That one seems legit.
Yeah. But yeah, we're doing it for some deep conspiracy reason.
Well, it's because the thing that these all get wrong is what we were just talking about with how things work within these systems, where your opponent is someone else, but the enemy is someone else.
Right.
The conspiracy that would work is Dmitry Rogozin is on the outs, and the Russian military tried to take him out by the way of destroying the ISS, and therefore completely ruining the political career of Dmitry Rogozin.
I like that one.
That's a better one. No one put that out there.
Or just, to embarrass Rogozin in front of his friends.
Right. In front of the drinking club that they all go to. And,
in front of the NASA drinking club, yeah. So you should have Rogozin on this show.
We kind of should have Rogozin on the show.
Yeah, we should.
I'm sure he'd be a good drinker,
He'd probably beat us, yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Man. That'd be a get.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, I mean, I'm, in general, I've looked, I've done enough digging into secrets, like real secrets, like National Reconnaissance Office satellites and stuff like that. And, the general thing about government conspiracies is, have you met our government?
Or project management. Have you ever tried that?
Right, yeah, exactly. Any government is just not competent enough to pull off a good conspiracy. It's just not going to happen. People are going to talk too much.
Okay, well.
Should we get into the Jonathan topics that we would like to hear about? I've got some questions for Jonathan, Jake.
Yeah.
Because I want to know how you got started tracking everything that goes to space and where it is at literally every moment in time. That sounds exhausting.
Yeah, well, I'm obsessive, and it's so when I was about 11, I think 10 or 11, I found a list of satellites, of this year's satellites, in the back of James All-the-World's aircraft. That, you know, I was like one of my dad's friends. We were around at their house. They had a big bookcase, and I was bored, and so I, looked up the space stuff, and so I copied out this list, and then fairly soon I realized that this was not really there were some missing bits in this list, like lack of information about certain military satellites and other things, and maybe it wasn't the best list you could have.
Turns out.
So I started digging and trying to make a better list, and so here we are 50 years later, and I have a better list. and it's just, if you dig, I mean, one thing I really believe is that if you pick a narrow enough field of specialization and really dig at it for a long period of time, it's not that hard to be the best in the world, especially if no one else cares. And so I was growing up in England, and the media in England were not interested in space, not even compared to the US, right? And so it was really hard to get information, and so I had to dig. So I would go up to London at the weekends and visit the Science Museum Library and read the latest aviation weeks, and dig into the older aviation weeks and the older, I sort of dug deeper and deeper into the libraries, making notes and making handwritten index cards on all the satellites, and slowly built up my database. And I'll tell you, that was a pain when I had to actually get and type it into computers at some point.
I was going to say, so are some of like the earliest entries in your database today, like from that time?
Absolutely, yeah. And I still have the 1978 handwritten satellite catalog.
That's awesome.
I had in fountain pen,
Wow.
So yeah, I just kept plugging away at it because I wanted. It's sort of like a crossword puzzle. I wanted to fill in the blanks, and every time there's this satisfaction. Every time I fill in a blank, every time I find out the launch time of that satellite that no one else has written down, there's that satisfaction that you get from like completing a Sudoku puzzle, and or I have the serial number of that Agena stage that I've been hunting for 20 years. and so yeah, it's pathetic, but I get my satisfaction from that.
I just like to imagine like some of your friends being like, "Oh, so you're like really interested in like space exploration?" No, look, I just got to finish this list. If this list,
right.
Yeah, it's like
this has got to be done. Like I don't know
what. Put it this way: when I was 8 years old, my nickname in the playground was Satellite.
That is awesome.
It's
you are so on brand all these years later.
Yeah, exactly. I really haven't grown up. But a little more seriously, right? That time when I was like 8 or 9, right, was Apollo. And my dad was a physicist, and we went to the US for a year because he did a sabbatical year at NASA Goddard.
It's a good time to be there.
I was at NASA Goddard in 1968. And so that was running up and down the corridors, annoying people as an 8-year-old, And so Building 21, if anyone knows it. So, it was all downhill from there, right? I was already into space, but...
Yeah, but then you were an 8-year-old, like, at the spot that everything was happening. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I was really inspired. I was inspired by Apollo. I was inspired philosophically by, that visiting other worlds. And I think the younger generation can't appreciate the way I encapsulate the change, right, is that we used to have a saying, "You're asking for the moon." Meaning you're asking for something impossible. And after 1969, we had it pretty quickly a saying, if we can land a man on the moon, why can't we or whatever?
That's so true, yeah. Right? The immediate switch of that.
That switch, right, from the impossible to the we did the impossible and now let's do everything else, right? It is that was, I think, very profound. And certainly it was a deep thing for me. So that's kind of how. And then I got the fact that I was frustrated because the British media, we'd come back to England, the British media were not covering things in the detail that I wanted. Made me want to make sure, that I could fill in the blanks. And as I got more sophisticated, and as I got, past college and into, knowing people at NASA and so on, I realized that in fact, even at NASA, they were losing information. The space companies, they were losing information. They were not writing it down. And
that's crazy to me.
And particularly what happens now, right, is that you fly a mission at CDR and PDR, at the design reviews, you generate all this paper, or, PDFs now, but paper not so long ago. But then when the thing actually flies, you're too busy to write down the post-flight reports are sketchy. They don't always get published. When the mission wraps up, people move on to another mission and maybe
you're burnt out from working on that thing for so long. You're like,
so the funding isn't there to do the final report. And then the professional historians come in and they write the official history of the project. But because they're professional historians, what they're interested in is humans, not robots. And they're interested in the politics of how it got funded. And they don't care about what actually happened once it leaves the pad. So if you read an official history of a NASA project, it has maybe 12 chapters and 11 of them are on the way up to launch. And then there's a final chapter about, and it went and it did something. and but they don't actually give the details of, what the differences were between the as flown and the pre-launch plan and things like that. And maybe if you're lucky, there's an internal memo that gives that you can, that's going to get thrown out at some point when people clear out their offices. And so if you're lucky and get that, you can record it. And so I made that my mission in life, is to be the chronicler for people 1,000 years from now that want to find out what exactly these spacecraft actually did when they flew, and get it written down for posterity.
Man, I that jives so well with what I'm sort of like watching now, because I cover all these Mars missions like pretty as deeply as I can, right? And like the Perseverance mission, that's what's happening. They're like under the gun. They're hustle, trying to get all these samples drilled and get the rover moving, and like nothing's getting released. There's like, the blog, compared to say Curiosity, which is now like a senior mission, right? It's like, they got lots of time to write.
It's time to write our memoirs.
But like there's nothing coming on a Perseverance, and I think about some of the, like, remember there was like an anomaly for Perseverance right after launch. You remember, like the temperature sensors were all out of whack.
That's right.
I don't remember seeing any good like releases on that, like, besides maybe just an answer in a press conference. But it's I
mean, I have confidence for Perseverance that and Curiosity that people like Emily Lectuala will track it all down. And
hopefully
write it down, right? But it's hard, and it's hard. I mean, even Ingenuity is doing a pretty good job. I love the Ingenuity blogs, but even they're not consistently going, here was the takeoff time, here was the landing time. Like, come on, give me a table, right? Be systematic. And so that for me is, what I want to see. I mean, same thing, we had this thing with the Crew 3 mission recently. Who is Mission Specialist 1 and who is Mission Specialist 2? And currently now on Expedition 66, who is Flight Engineer 7? There's nowhere you can look that up now. There's no systematic page that gives you that level of detail, which, but at least it's but that sort of systematic information is not interesting to the people who are in charge of public affairs now. And that's just extremely frustrating. So then they say, okay, this guy is the 50th person to do this, and you want to go and fact check that, and there's no way to fact check it because they haven't given you enough information at the time. So
the Inspiration 4 team got away with a lot of those that they couldn't be fact-checked,
right.
even though some of them could.
Well, I tried to call them on it, but yeah. I don't know if you saw the thing about, in fact, I mean, hey, the Arsenault seems awesome.
Yeah.
She was not the first person in space with a prosthetic.
No.
Turns out. Maybe the first acknowledged person in space with a prosthetic. That I'll give it that. But so all of these things, right, are and there are reasons for why that might not be public. But it's the same. It's the same kind of story. It's the dumbing down of public information means you have to work really hard to get the historical record at a level where you can fact check things and have things reconstruct missions. And that's what I want to try and do, is I'm going to reconstruct my passion project is the Deep Space Catalog. I've got a first version of it out there, but this is a second version coming in a couple of years probably, which is the
right.
And so to find out what was not an easy thing to find out. Right?
Knew where they were when they were at Mars, but future fodder for an anti-satellite operation. Like, that's what they are at the moment.
Well, yeah.
Those ones, at least, I have seen the math on some of those calculations, and they do get that percent.
Long-term solar system stability, about what's the probability and there's some statistical, there's some uncertainty, so you do it statistically and get percentages for what might happen to it.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's cool. So I'm trying to think if I had another question too, but I think we got into it. The deep space stuff was really, I think, where I wanted to make sure the conversation got to. I remember watching I think it was a tweet from you, Jonathan, at some point where you were tracking, maybe it was Cassini with like all the different pieces, because like when Huygens came out,
that's right, I listed all the different pieces that had come off of it.
Yeah, there was like a cover on it. So like there's like this weird panel now that's in
it's like when you have a neutral
somewhere.
Mass spectrometer device, they have a cover on it to protect it from contamination that they eject at some point during the mission. And if you're very lucky, you can find a paper that says when they did it. And then you know when Cassini was at the time, what its orbit might be around the sun. And so there's this tiny little instrument cover in solar orbit with these parameters. Or unlike in low Earth orbit, where it's Space Force's job to keep track of that, it's no one's job to keep track of the Deep Space Catalog. So I've made it my job. And so there's now slightly over 1,000 objects in the Deep Space Catalog, and a lot of them are it's lost, but here's where it was last seen. Right, it was last seen on this date going that way is what I'm trying to write down.
How is there 1,000 out there?
Well, including lunar stuff and there's
I mean, it's a lot of parts, man. InSight was how many parts,
Right, exactly. You gotta,
because even when you're talking every time that a hatch blows out of these things, right? You have to figure out like how fast that was ejected, and then
has these mass balance devices that get ejected during descent.
But they go to the ground.
They go to Mars.
Like all that stuff is on Mars. So like there's like a sense.
Zuma.
Yeah. Oh, I knew Zuma was gonna get.
Well, Jonathan, you keep saying I'm trying to fill in blanks. I'm like, there's one big blank that no one filled in yet.
A big empty row.
I think it's pretty. I mean, what the mystery about is what he owned.
That's true.
As you don't know, right? Zuma was the code name for this payload that was launched on a Falcon 9, and unlike most payloads, the payload adapter was a special one that wasn't SpaceX's. It was the Northrop Grumman's as part of the payload, integrated as part of the payload, and it failed.
So they say.
I am 100%, well, 99.5%.
All right, that's good.
That the story as we've told it is right. That it was, they reached orbit, they commanded payloads attached.
Falcon 9 upper stages just kind of fall into the Indian Ocean.
it varies, depends. There's the upper stages for Dragon tend to go, remember correctly.
Gotcha.
And there are some that go even like in the Pacific, east of New Zealand. So it sort of depends on the insertion orbit. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of hardware, melted, charred hardware on the bottom of various oceans.
Here's the last thing I want to do before we talk, or I guess we got a lightning round. But what I find interesting is your catalog that you've been building since you were 8 and out of a magazine or whatever it was that you were writing stuff down. How critical is all of that to your 80-kilometer paper? So much that you can run statistics on.
The causality actually goes the other way. I'm making a catalog of things in space. And so I had to decide what counted as things in space.
Okay,
right?
So your entire life is driven on what you need to complete this list, essentially.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And as a byproduct, you have completely redefined a 50-year-old argument.
Yeah, I learned Russian in high school so that I could translate the satellite launch announcements in Pravda.
Amazing.
In so many ways. Let's say I've used the list as an excuse to go down rabbit holes of various kinds that have led me in a lot of fun places, and so and the 80-kilometer line one, where does space begin, very consciously came out of who's in the astronaut list, what rocket launches are in the suborbital space launch list. I have to decide where to put the line, and I wasn't just going to put 100 because that just seemed to me like, no, that's pulled out of someone's rear orifice, and so I started asking the question, and read what had been done about it, and did my own math, and then as I realized that I needed to do the Kármán calculation, which means I needed to understand atmospheric physics, which means I needed to read a lot of papers and do some math and develop some code. And so, after a while, I had the code that reproduces it re-implements the NRL atmospheric model, and ran that a million times for different solar activity states. And so that means I had to investigate, where to get the best solar activity list from. And so, there's so many different rabbit holes I had to go down to, and then, coming out from the other side too, investigating the history of high altitude aircraft, and how high was the highest aircraft, and what counts and what doesn't, and balloons and so on. And so just a lot of research over a long period of time to keep, beating on this question and testing, all right, does this make sense? What makes sense? What is my gut telling me when I amass this large amount of data and see if it's telling me a consistent story? And in the end, I was actually, the reason for the paper is that I was really surprised how consistent the story is. That I was expecting, for example, my atmospheric calculations to show, did we freeze and lose Anthony?
Yeah, he's a little frozen.
I'm working
right
that
now.
out there.
You can hear it, but
like I was expecting the answer to be, well, okay, depending on the solar activity, the answer is either 70 kilometers or 90 kilometers or 100 kilometers or 120 kilometers, right? It might have been really vague. And in fact, for, a given ballistic coefficient is actually really narrow. The atmosphere changes a lot up at 300 kilometers. He's back. And
we're going to the second camera. I don't know what's going on with the other one right now.
Yeah. And then, but down at 80, 100 kilometers, actually the atmosphere doesn't change that much due to solar activity or other things. And so it turns out that, it's the answer is 80 plus or minus 5, essentially. Okay. And so that gave me the confidence to go, I think you can really define a line. It's an arbitrary line still at some level, but if you're going to use the Kármán argument, the line is relatively well defined. And so that's nice. It means, it's a fairly meaningful number. and it fits with where things break up, and it fits with where satellite perigees can go down to, and all that. And so, like several different lines of argument all solidified in this sort of, plus or minus 5 kilometer kind of range. And so that made me think, okay, this is worth publishing.
Yeah, you've got a lot of converts in our listener community, our viewer community. I know that for sure because I know Anthony had you on the show to talk about it, and then I know he was converted. Anthony's like a McDowell convert, and he convinced everybody else, and so here we are. So that's what we use now. I don't get into any fights about whether Virgin Galactic went to space or not.
It's just a stupid spaceship.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's also, for me, I mean, I think scientifically the argument is good, but it's also more interesting as an answer for me. I mean,
it helps you build the list out. Importantly,
including X-15 pilots is more interesting than not including them.
Where can you not breathe anymore?
That's actually more like 20
Everest,
way lower.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, way lower.
Yeah, Mount Everest.
Take that argument. Yeah, there are other choices you can make, right? And it's a question of what. So I'm not arguing that this is the only possible definition of space, but I think it's a better one than round number 100. And so
I like the dunking on 100 kilometers because it's the only time that we can dunk on metric as being arbitrary, and I enjoy that.
I mean, I am as someone European educated, I use metric all the time. So for me, it's 80 kilometers, not 50 miles, right? But that's a different thing from picking a round number for your boundary, and I try not to do that. So I've also been working on, where is the boundary of deep space?
Oh yeah, you get into all this with Hill spheres.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I haven't thought too deeply about that one, but now I'm kind of intrigued. So maybe we have to have another show.
Addendum.
Addendum.
Is it in your lightning round?
It's in my paper. You can read it in my paper. But,
Okay, I'll look it up.
And we can chat.
All right. Cool. So should we do lightning round? What do you think?
Yeah. Although it's the segment's called Terminal Count, we always forget.
Terminal Count. Yeah, we always. The listeners renamed it, and
we never remember that.
And we never ever remember. So okay, so Jonathan, this is a fun round of questions. The point is, of course, just kind of shoot an answer out. Don't think too deeply about it. But they're not as hard as you might be afraid they're going to be. So don't stress too much. But they're just kind of fun. We always start with the calibration question, and it's very topical. At what altitude does space begin? That's question 1. It's a very easy one.
All right, 80 kilometers.
80 kilometers, correct. I also would have accepted where you can't breathe anymore.
Apparently, Jake's new argument.
One person was suggesting on Twitter that you should ask me not just about the Kármán line, but about the Ripley line.
Oh yeah. I don't even know what the Ripley line is. So
the Ripley line is so there's sound doesn't travel in space, right? And so there's an altitude at which you can no longer hear someone scream.
It's a legitimate argument. Yeah, it's a legitimate argument.
From Alien, that space is in space, no one can hear you scream. And
so that's the spot.
How high do you have to be?
Yeah.
Before no one can hear you scream, and that's the Ripley line.
Jake, I think I'm not lying. I think this might be our key to the 15 minutes of fame. This test in particular.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Carry on with this.
All right.
Question 2.
Right, lightning round. Question 2. The Russian ASAT operation test demonstration was A, good, B, bad, or C, heckin' bad?
Heckin' bad.
Heckin' bad. It was heckin' bad, guys.
Seriously ungood.
Seriously
Double
bad.
plus ungood.
Double plus ungood. Condemned. Three condemnations on this podcast. No plus ones on that one. Okay, question 3. Do you even remember what you were doing before Russia blew up a satellite this week? Because it feels like that has taken over your entire life.
Right. Well, that's not the only thing I've been doing this week. I also gave our Chandra, my group's twice annual report to the NASA suits about how we've been spending their money.
Wow,
so that
very stress-free week.
Kind of an important meeting.
This week. And so I spent the weekend preparing that. And we just did the users committee as well. So I've been working a lot on Chandra stuff. and preparing for our annual software release and things like that. So, but there's also another project I'm working on in my spare time, which is the next phase of the general catalog of space objects, and that is going to be the mission logs for every satellite. And so I'm writing the code that converts. I already have it in like LaTeX form, and I'm trying to make an HTML version that's nicely indexed and things like that. So I'm writing lots of code to map my my LaTeX source to various kinds of CSS and HTML.
A very light work week.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel great about my work week.
Just a little side project, yeah. Okay, question number 4. Is going on CNN scary?
Not anymore. I mean, it is a little, because, you know, the thing is, right, you got to, so how big a fool of myself can I make in front of millions of people live, right?
It's a good test. It's a good test.
At this point, the answer is I've already plumbed that pretty well. And so, you know, so it's not as scary as it used to be. I first did CNN for the Meteor re-entry in 2001, so I've been doing this a while. So you know, but yeah, sometimes, you know, and it's I'm you know, sometimes I come off a TV hit and I'm like, oh, I think that went pretty well. I think I looked, you know, reasonably sensible. And then sometimes I go, okay, I can never show my face in public again. It's so bad. You know, and so you just never know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And there's the black screen thing that we were talking about pre-show, where when you're on, that you're not looking at anything, you're just looking at a black screen.
Right. And there's there's the light travel delay, right? If you're you know, and so you know, it's like, oh, well, now we go to Jonathan McDowell, and you ask me a question, and I'm going. And then, you know, 2 seconds later, I'm like, oh, right, yes, hi, Anderson. So, you know, and so that doesn't help you look
And then your name's misspelled, and they're like, Planet, you know, 2317 instead of the actual handle. Okay.
France 24 calling me James McDowell this week. So that was a little
Jimmy McDowell from down the block. Yeah.
Right, we're here with Jonathan McDougal, who's going to be...
right, exactly. But, you know, that's not so... I'd rather, you know, if they're going to get something wrong, they can get that wrong. Don't get the space stuff wrong, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, question 5. Your favorite space debris removal idea. Go.
Ooh.
Nice.
Ooh, I'm going to offend some friends here.
Yes.
I mean, I like the net. I like the net that remove debris used. I don't know if you've seen that video.
Oh yeah.
But throwing the net and reeling it in, that makes sense to me, and it looks fun.
Okay, good, awesome.
Because it's like Spider-Man in space. It's great.
It is like Spider-Man in space. Yeah. It's like fishing, really.
It's the fish. Right, it's a fish controller.
Yeah. Question 6. What percentage of your free time was swallowed up when Starlink started launching 60 satellites every 3 weeks or whatever it was?
Yeah, I mean, actually, most of my science time for the past 2 years has been that.
And not only that, it's been like the titanium rods or whatever, the deployment rods.
Well, it's not so much that. I mean, yes, I've been also the piece of the like Jonathan Space Report part of following Starlink has been a relatively small part. I've automated that pretty well at this point. But the astronomer part of assessing the impact on ground-based astronomy and being part of the committees and the conference organizers that have been discussing this issue. We've had a couple of US conferences. We've had a couple of conferences joint with the IAU and the UN. And so we're really trying to build a coalition to kind of get the night sky as something that's seen as part of the environment that we should protect. And so that's been taking up a great deal of my professional time over the past 2 years. And then, the other side of me that does the web pages is like, okay, and I 5 minutes every day, I run the code that checks which Starlink satellites have moved from drift to ascent, from ascent to operational, from operational to orbit lowering, and manually verify that and update the graphs that are on my web pages. So So it's all basically I just have the process I type. I go to the right directory and I type make, and it does all that. And then I make some manual edits to the ones that I think, okay, need to be changed status. And then I type make copy, and it pushes.
And then you tweet, "We've got a dud," and then everyone runs with that. Like,
yeah, and so exactly. So it's pretty. There's some manual, but it's pretty automated. It's pretty efficient, and that's a lot of what I do is automating things so that I can cope with the flood of data because there's so much data now.
Okay, well, follow-up question to that then, number 7. We just saw a new news item this week from Kepler Communications, 114,000 satellites in this application. I don't know what the deal with it is, but the question is, do you have to upgrade your computer now?
Well, I mean, the answer to that question, do I have to upgrade my computer, is always yes. I was just on the I get my computers built by a company called ThinkMate, which is up the street in Norwood. They make custom-built Linux boxes. And so this one I'm speaking on now is like a $10,000 Linux box with all the bells and whistles. And it's a few years old now, so maybe I need a new one. I need a better graphics card because this one is having trouble driving the let's see if I can do this without losing the video.
Oh my lord.
Driving the 6 monitors, including the main 49-inch
incredible
monitor.
A live look into the McDowell station.
Yeah, and so whoops,
oh no.
right.
Man, that's more monitors than when they're driving Canadarm on the space station.
That's far more monitors, yeah.
So
you got your cameras now way down there.
Yeah. I'm gonna fix it. Here we are. I have a device called a pen that's
awesome.
angling the thing up. So hopefully that'll do for now. Let's see.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I spent all this money on monitors. Can't get a camera stand.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I've got to fix the. Okay, that's a bit better.
There it is.
So anyway, so I have toys, and midlife crisis I spend on computers instead of cars, it is going to be a challenge keeping up with all the satellites. It's already a challenge keeping up with the Starlinks, so I just have to automate more stuff. And that's the problem because
you and SpaceX both.
Well, that's true. Yeah, right. The reason that I don't do things so automated, right, is that there's a lot of errors in the data that come through, right? You really have to spot, okay, this TLE is bogus, this piece of information is just not right, and so. But you can kind of, so I've got a lot better at running pre-filters on things to spot where things don't look consistent and pull them up for me rather than having to look at every piece of data. And so that's going to be the challenge going forward.
Okay. Question number 8. What is the most bizarre or obscure object you have tracked in space?
Nice.
I mean, there's a lot of competition for that. My favorite satellite name, I'll tell you that, is Orbiting Frog Otolith 1.
Yes, I know this one.
I don't know this one.
Yes, this is like an old Soviet.
No, it's
American.
It's American. It's a NASA science experiment where they flew 2 frogs on a non-return trip, and were studying They wired up their ear otoliths, right, to study their adaptation to balance. But it's just such a ludicrous satellite.
Say it again. Say the name again.
Orbiting Frog Otolith 1.
Is that better than 2? Like, what's the deal with that?
There was only 1.
There was only 1. They numbered it, and there's just 1.
Right. Yeah. That's what are you gonna do?
I like that when your ambition outstrips your execution. You name stuff number 1. The first annual.
I made that mistake. Yeah, Atlas of Quasar Energy Distributions, paper 1, and I still have paper 2 20 years later. So yeah, that happens.
So wait, what were they? Were they in like a little habitat? What's the deal?
Yeah, they were in a tiny. The satellite was basically a tiny little habitat with an attitude control system and a telemetry system. So
look at this. I never knew this.
if you want to learn more, if you want to learn more about it, Anthony, I did recreate it for KSP history. So
no way, you did?
Yeah.
Oh
totally
man,
did, yeah.
that's awesome.
I'm trying to think if there's any other really weird. There are weird looking satellites, of course, and sort of orbital mechanics weirdness is always fun.
I'll accept that answer.
like for example, HGS-1/AsiaSat-3, the communications satellite that they rescued by sending it around the moon.
Oh, that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's a great one.
That's a good one.
Is that the one they tried to like regain control of out of like the back of a McDonald's?
Oh, IC3.
IC3, yeah.
International Sun-Earth Explorer 3, also known as the International Cometary Explorer. And that's a really important part. Talking about orbital mechanics, that was the first Lagrange point spacecraft.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it had an awesome trajectory. It went everywhere.
Can we go back? I feel like we skipped over the McDonald's very quick. What's with this McDonald's situation?
So NASA wasn't interested, but it repassed the Earth in 2014 after having been sent out into solar orbit. And so Keith Cowan.
And there was one McDonald's that we could do this from? What kind of weird sci-fi plot is this?
They were on a low budget. So they found a little shortwave radio transmitter, and they commanded this satellite from, some parking lot or something, I guess.
Yeah, it's legit, man. It's a real thing.
I was writing down while they were on a low budget as a title potential. Sorry.
We did that one in KSP history as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. But it was like they got like, I want to say that they made contact with it, but they weren't able to like get control of it or
they weren't able to make an orbit change because the thrusters had frozen up or something like that.
Right.
So or it run or leaked out or whatever. So they talked to it, but they couldn't send it on a new mission.
Okay.
Good ones.
Yeah, good ones.
That's some Wikipedia rabbit holes to dive down right there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, everyone's got homework now. Question 9. Do you like being a meme in partnership with Emily Lakdawalla? I'm talking about, yeah.
I don't think I've seen this meme.
No, okay. So there's like a really great tweet interaction that you had with Emily where it was like the Perseverance landing and you made a joke about this time it's aliens because Perseverance is an alien to the Martians.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
And
you
Emily,
being an asshole, right?
Yeah. and Emily replied just with a nice, like, succinct Jonathan, period. And that's become a meme. We use that now. Every time someone makes a really corny joke, we just say Jonathan.
We have a meme and we have a custom emoji of just Emily Lakdawalla's head.
I will own that. I will own that. I do have a tendency to be the but actually guy that I really should try and rein in a bit more.
All right.
I do it, but I do it in a warm, friendly way, not in a you're an idiot, you're wrong way. That's the only
100% co-sign.
Yeah, totally. All right. Final question of the lightning round. True or false? It's an easy one. True or false? You can get a whole lot done with a good old trusty 2-axis plot. What do you think?
Hell yes.
Yes.
That people complain about my graphics, right? But do you want something pretty or do you want to know the answer?
Do you get a lot of complaints about them?
Oh yeah, people all the time. People are like, oh, you need to upgrade your graphics, Jonathan. What are you using?
Well, to be fair, you did just tell us you have a $10,000 computer.
Yes, and I use it to do calculations. Stupid.
You skimped on the GPU. You just got all CPU.
Yeah, exactly.
They're running all the monitors, so there's no room for graph prettying in there. Yeah.
Well, I just don't care, or let's say it this way: I think my graphs are pretty, and the fact that my aesthetic doesn't match the aesthetic of the younger generation is not my problem.
Maybe a little drop shadow.
What does that add, though?
This was my only chance to make an okay boomer joke on Off-Nominal, and I didn't take it.
Yeah, that is fair. I am technically a boomer, yeah.
I love the graphs. I use them all the time. It's great.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
I drop them into my show notes so that when I'm talking about stuff, I can reference them.
And a more serious thing is, so the same is true of my website, right? I recently upgraded from 1994 HTML to about 2003 HTML.
Nice,
I've got CSS now on some of the pages.
Wow, that's a big leap. Yeah,
it's on HTML 3.1, I think. Might even be in the XHTML days. I don't know exactly the timeline.
And so I mean, the website went up in like late '94, I think, and before that it was on FTP, it was pre-web in that sense, and so and I and it doesn't have it's pretty basic because I edit the pages live in Emacs in a text editor, right? I don't have some,
You have it backed up, right? Like, should we hook you up with like GitHub or something?
Oh, no, I have backups.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just making sure. All of it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a name I've not heard in a long time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, but you know what? It's like, because it's fast, right? And
it works.
This is not my day job. And so
you got a system. It does what you need it to do. You don't need to overcomplicate it.
Right, exactly. And my job is to get content out there onto the internet. Right?
And to finish your list.
Yeah, exactly. And
technically that's all you need then.
Do the research and to push it out there as efficiently as I can. And then because it's all CC BY, it's all
make it yourself.
My data, and as long as you say it comes from me, you can make something pretty. And I would rather that other people spend the time to do the pretty, and I spend the time doing the orbit calculations.
Boom. Okay. That's right there. Mic drop. Was that your end of a lightning round? Was that the last question?
That's question 10, yeah.
Should we do some picks?
I think we should do some picks, yep.
All right.
Who wants to start? You got one, Anthony?
I do. It's a +1 of your last pick, because I was on vacation between the last show and now for a little while. My other sub pick, national parks are freaking great. I went to a bunch of national parks on vacation. Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, Rocky Mountain National Park. I saw a bunch of elk. And I watched Foundation, Jake. I haven't watched the finale of season 1.
Yeah. I haven't watched it yet. I'm very suspicious because
caveat, I haven't read any of the Foundation stuff.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going in
Same as me.
And it starts out very bizarre, the season, and it gets less bizarre as it goes on, and pretty engaging. And I'm digging it. I haven't watched the finale yet, but I'm digging it.
You're exactly where I am. Yeah? One episode left. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm digging it. I really like it.
It's basically a shoot 'em up show instead of a show about I don't know, about philosophy and politics and so on.
A little bit.
It's not a ton of philosophy and politics.
No.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I mean, there are definitely flaws in the original books, but I still would have liked a more direct
adaptation.
Wheel of Time and Cowboy Bebop.
Okay, good.
Is that your pick?
and Discovery season 4 is no, my pick. Okay, I've got some astronomy books for you.
Oh, nice.
Oh, excellent.
We
don't get a lot of books.
We used to. Originally, we came out of the gate hot with books, Jake.
These are sort of frozen.
It's like a normal website if you take everything away but the HTML, right?
That's right, exactly. So this book came out.
I know this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Planet Factory, and I'm recommending this because one of the biggest changes in astronomy over the past 10, 20 years or so has been the study of exoplanets. And this is a really nice, fairly up-to-date analysis of a description for the public of all the different how diverse the planets are that we're finding, and how they're all horrible places that would kill you in various different ways. And I think Elizabeth Tasker, who works for JAXA and is a planet formation theorist, has done a really nice job in in this book, and I think people will enjoy it.
She's a great Twitter follow if you want to follow JAXA stuff too. She's
right. Girl and Cat on Twitter.
Yeah, Girl and Cat.
No,
good cat content and good JAXA content.
Right, and she's really transformed JAXA's English outreach. So
yes,
so kudos to her.
Yeah.
This is another more recent book that's just come out. Let's see. I'm being reflected. So
Asteroids. I like that.
Yeah.
That's
so this is How Love, Fear, and Greed Will Determine Our Future in Space is the subtitle.
Wow.
And so this is by my colleague Martin Elvis, who used to be a quasar astronomer, but is now studying asteroid mining.
Well, that's a pivot.
Yeah. Well, and there's a reason, right? His motivation is that astronomy satellites are getting too expensive. James Webb, and so we have to change the economics of space if we're going to afford astronomy satellites. And the best way to change the economics of space is, and this is the greed part, is to make money out of asteroid mining, and then that'll bring the cost of being in space down.
I understand why you two get along, because this is like the version of your 80-kilometer paper for just finishing your list. Like, my only mission is to build astronomy telescopes, and what I need to do is make a shitload of money. So what I'm gonna do is mine asteroids.
Right, exactly. It's like it's not being intimidated by the big ask.
That's awesome.
Let's change all of human history in order to achieve this technical thing. And but this is it. Martin's a fun guy, and the book is engaging and fun, and so you won't agree with everything in it. I don't agree with everything in it, but it's a nice view of the various ways in which we might engage with the asteroids for science, for planetary defense, that's the fear part, and for mining, which is the greed part.
That sounds awesome. I'm definitely reading that one. That sounds great.
So those are my picks for today.
Love it. Cool. Anthony, I have one that I am kind of embarrassed to say it took me this long to share, and
nice.
Also not just to share, but also just to like have in my life. Like, I knew about this thing and I didn't look at it for a long time until like this year, and I'm embarrassed about it.
I'm like racking my brain for what this could be.
Yeah. It's a website, okay, and it's Jonathan, you'll like this because it's kind of an old school website. It's been around a while, and it uses like an old PHP message board style. Like it's pretty vintage. Unmannedspaceflight.com.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't like the name because robotic spaceflight.
That's how
it's
old
as old as the website. Yes.
That's how old it is. The name is that bad. So this is
probe equivalent of NASA's spaceflight.com.
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, so
a project of the Planetary Society.
And I keep meaning to spend more time on it, and I keep getting to do it because I'm too busy. But I need to be. Thank you for reminding me about it, because I need to spend more time.
Check out these drop shadows between data access and inspiration. Very classic.
There are some CSS going on in this.
Very
website.
Classic.
Good, yeah.
Only I could learn how to do that. Yeah.
Processors and analyzers of the every week, and so I can learn a lot from them. And then there's just some gorgeous pictures, like all the mosaics and stuff. And so I've now incorporated it into my podcast research stream into my flow, and so it's hopefully it's getting better. But it's a great website, and I'm glad I finally kicked myself in the butt to go look
I never knew about it. Yeah. I never knew about it.
No, I need to thank you for that, because that's a good tip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think Phil Stook shows up there now. Who is,
makes
if you
the
want
best
another
maps.
pick Phil Stook and his work on making atlases of the rover tracks on various worlds. Just that to me is like a Jonathan level project.
It
right?
totally is. It 100%
really
is.
Glad, I would have had to do if Phil hadn't done it.
Yeah, you're like, thanks, Phil.
Yeah, thanks, Phil, for taking care of that for me.
Yeah, if there's one guy that knows exactly where the rovers are and which direction they're facing, who isn't at JPL, like that's basically
right.
Yeah, it's him. He's Canadian too. I think he's in British Columbia. So I'm actually kind of mad I never met up with him when I lived there. So
Cool.
awesome. Okay, so that's picks. Anthony, we have some Off-Nominal happy hour. That's what we're calling it. It's going to be in a regular time slot, Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. I think I got that time right, Anthony. Is that correct? 4 p.m. Eastern. Yep. So that's 1 p.m. in Pacific, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And I think that's 2100 UTC for all of our European friends. So we get like a good cross section of who can show up to this. And we hope to do more different things, I guess. I don't really want to constrain it too much, but we've got lots of
We're figuring
ideas.
it
out. Hopefully we'll be able to do new things more frequently, explore things that we wouldn't have had time for. And it's going to be right here on YouTube. So hopefully that's exciting for everybody.
And hopefully YouTube is fixed by then, because it appears as if there's a lot of issues tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Apparently the stream's been a little buggy today, but yeah, that's what we're announcing today. So we're pretty excited about that.
It's going to be more time to hang out. That's pretty much it. Straight up.
That's it. Yeah. More drinks.
Figuring
more
out
shows.
the details then.
Yeah, that's.
But you didn't even say when it starts. It starts the week after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, December 2nd, it'll be our first show. We're not going to do one on Thanksgiving Day, obviously, but it's coming up soon, and I hope you like it. So stay tuned for more information on that coming up in the Twitter feed. If you're in the Off-Nominal Discord, if you're a patron of Anthony or I, you'll see more information there, and it's going to be good. And if you're in Australia, I think you can turn it on in the morning as you're getting ready for work in the future, wherever you live. I don't really understand those time zones very well.
I haven't looked that one up.
I think it's like 8 a.m. in Canberra.
Oh, that works out pretty great then.
I think you can make it work. If you're on the other side, is it Perth that's on the west coast?
Yeah.
That's not going to work out. But
right.
Yeah. So that's how it is. Anyway, so I hope you enjoy that, everybody. I'm excited for it.
That's what we got. Jonathan, do you have stuff to plug? What should people check out? If they don't know Jonathan McDowell or Jimmy McDougall, where should they go? JimmyMcDougall.com.
Planet4589.org.
Can you tell me what the number's about?
Oh, yeah. So there is a minor planet in the asteroid belt, 4589 McDowell, that is named after me.
Oh, shit. So, that's like the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life.
So, yeah, if you got your own planet right, you got to plug it. So yeah, that's my asteroid, 4589.
Is that now? Which section of asteroids is that in? Is that the Greed one it's named after you, or which section of that book is it about?
Oh no, I don't think my asteroid shows up in Martin's book.
It's probably Greed.
Yeah,
it's named after you.
So yeah, maybe. But yeah, so that's the website, planet4589.org, or you can just Google Jonathan Space Report, and that'll take you to it. And Jonathan Space Report is the, monthly these days summary of everything that's been going on in space. But on the same website, you'll also find the General Catalog of Space Objects, which is my master index to every rocket launch, every satellite, every suborbital mission. It's all in there with a lot of documentation about exactly how you want to think about it. And I've recently added a glossary page for the 5 different definitions of the word satellite and things like that.
One of them is you when you were 8.
That's true. I should add that one. Find me as Planet4589 on Twitter. If you have questions, feel free to send them at me on Twitter, and I'll do my best.
They'll show up in the tweet deck.
One of the 19 columns he's got. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I'll look out for your in my notifications, and that's really the easiest way to find me. So thanks for having me on. It's been great to meet you guys, and been a fun chat.
Yeah, it was great to have you. This is really fun. I learned all the things I wanted to learn, I think, and then more. Now I have to learn more questions. I have more questions now, of course. That's always a good interview when you have more questions.
But Jonathan needs a day off before that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah, I think tomorrow is napping.
Yeah.
And then because we have more satellite constellation stuff on Monday, I have important briefings and things like that. So,
fancy.
Yeah. So I'm okay. I'd really like to do some actual astronomy one of these days, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So there you go. So yeah, tomorrow is an actual day off, I think.
Should we close on a view of Jonathan's great socks?
Oh yeah, we heard that you have Chandra
We have
socks.
Chandra socks.
Look at these things. We're big into space socks around here, so we're definitely digging Chandra socks.
You can see the solar panels on the main tube. So Chandra, for those of you who don't know, is the X-ray cousin of the Hubble. It's the mission that I work on. We've been in space since 1999, still doing great science, and now we have socks. And so that
one of the great observatories, right? Isn't it part of the great
observatories? Yeah. Chandra.
And we didn't even talk about it.
Yeah, well, that can be the next time.
Yeah. We should. Seriously, we should talk about that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to.
We have more shows to do it on now, so.
Yeah, weekly. We talked about that, so.
Yeah, Thursday at 4 is our weekly Center for Astrophysics colloquium. So
sounds like a thing we can join.
You'll never be on happy hour.
We're still doing the regular show, so we'll do it on the regular show.
But Saturday night I might be able to help out. Yeah. So.
Sweet. And yeah, when I come up to Boston, where I've never been yet.
Yes, absolutely. We'd love to show you around.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay.
Is that it, Jake? Should we say bye?
I think that's the show. I think we should say goodbye now. I think that's it. Say goodbye to this no good, very bad stream or whatever's happening on YouTube's end here.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. End of test.
End of demonstration.
End of demonstration. I don't know why I'm so mad about it, but I was mad about it. Jonathan, you're the best. We're still live, so don't say anything offensive, I guess. But we are done. We have this weird situation where we have a show that we clip out and post as an audio show. So then, but we have the video thing too. We have some cleanup.
It doesn't make any sense.
But we're all done here, so please go rest and be Jonathan McDowell. Just heal yourself.
I need to get back to binging Cowboy Bebop. So
yeah, that's the real truth.
Or maybe I need to move on to Foundation.
Yeah, man.
Maybe
it's great.
Maybe
it's great.
And what else have I really liked lately? Have been some really good ones. I just completed totally binging iZombie. That was surprisingly good show.
You solely binge? Is that it? You're only binger?
Well, no, it varies. I mean,
you don't like the weekly burn?
It's hard for me to make a regular weekly show. So
I don't mean like on time. I just mean like Foundation went live and then it was weekly after that, right? So post them on Fridays, you watch them when you want, but you're a binger. Because I miss the weekly burn. I'm a weekly burn kind of guy.
It varies. It depends how much, what else is going on. So.
Because you're not busy, based on what you listed off that you've done this week.
Right. Well, I can code and watch TV at the same time.
That's true. That's true.
I can't do that.
I can't watch TV. No. I can listen to stuff. I can't watch stuff. No. Anyway, Jonathan, you are the greatest. Thanks so much for hanging out with us after quite a week.
I will say goodbye now, and it's been a pleasure, Jonathan.
See you later.
See ya.
Ciao.
Bye.
He's out of here. Boom. Oh, this one's still frozen, Anthony.
Jeez, hey. We didn't have a very good go of this tonight.
No, you know what's weird, though, is that I know this sounds like I'm making excuses, but I know that it's YouTube because I had 0 dropouts the entire time, and I ran a speed test while we were doing the stream, and it was like still gigabit class.
And if it was me, everything else would have been fine, and just my thing would have, because I'm going through your computer. Everything's going through your computer.
And there was literally no hiccups on this end. So something weird was going on. And the audio sync thing, some weird shit's going on. But it seems, I don't know, base chat, tell us if we're not, but I feel like we're all right now. Are we okay right now? All right, maybe it's Wirecast, because Brad's saying other streams don't do it. Maybe it's Wirecast. Maybe I'll try next time. I'll try a different app.
Yeah, God, I don't know.
I'll fool around with some other apps. But they're saying we're good now, so if you want to post show for a bit, unless you got somewhere to be.
I don't have anywhere to be, no. I spent the whole day cleaning up cat pee.
Yeah, you need this. You need this.
I don't want to leave this room anymore.
Several gin and tonics in, though. It's like,
Good. Man. The Jamaica ale was good. It was really good.
The hippo one?
Yeah, the Feldegriff. Feldegriff. It's good. I'm into it.
The beer company. So does the beer company only stock like garage beers?
They have. It's honestly like a really good craft beer store. Like I could not have asked for a better store to be right by my house, because they like you go in and it's small. It's like it's not bigger than my office here. Like it's like a small little one room.
Couple of fridges.
Like, none of it's cold, so it's all.
Oh, okay.
Buy it ahead of
Oh,
time.
that's even better.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So there's like one wall, two walls like opposite each other, and then there's like a little table in the middle, and that's where they put like features and stuff. But the one on the left is all imports, so I don't spend a ton of time there because it's all just like, they import like Rolling Rock and like.
Okay, I was gonna ask if there's like some standards
Heineken
too.
and stuff.
Yeah,
like, just like okay. Whatever,
only green beers.
Yeah, it's not like a ton of stuff that I maybe if I get through the rest of it. But the right hand side's got like two halves, and the right half is all Mexican beers from all over the country, and the left half is all like Yucatecan local random stuff. Yeah, so like I've been living in the Yucatecan one, and if I finish that off, and I'll expand out to Mexico to try different stuff. But it's super cool, man. I go in there every time there's new stuff. And then I mostly just like look for a fun label, which is why I find these ones today. And then I got home and looked them up, and it's like, yeah, it's just like a dude. It's like you can like find the guy's name. His name's on the bottle. He's got an Instagram with like 1,000 followers or whatever, pictures of his beers and his family. Like it's just awesome. Like it's so like it's hyper local. It's like so.
You should get him for a happy hour. Get him for one of these happy hours.
We should, man. Find one that speaks English and then do this. So. Look at this. We're getting trivia in the chat. Feldegriff is an anagram for Richard Garfield. I did not know that.
What?
He made Magic the Gathering. Wow. Okay.
Oh.
Usually, like a lot of the times, the Magic the Gathering stuff they'll like draw from real mythology and then make. But Feldegriff, Richard Garfield, Richard, PhD. Okay, I see. Richard Garfield, PhD.
But wait a minute.
It's missing some letters
I'm looking
somewhere,
at it. Is it just Garfield PhD?
I think maybe
right?
PhD Garf.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Garfield PhD.
Yeah, Richard's not in there.
Anyway, it's a hippopotamus with wings, and that's pretty cool. Yeah. So.
Man, Jonathan was great.
Yeah, he's perfect. It's great. Great guess.
Now that we're stable, let's talk about a happy hour a little bit, because I think we were choppy when we talked about happy hour.
Yeah, a little choppy. A little choppy.
We're going weekly.
Adding weekly.
We're adding weekly.
Adding weekly.
Right, because even on the weeks where there is a show, there's still a happy hour.
Could be a double week.
Yeah,
will be a double week.
Might even be a double header sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. We'll see. We'll see how much endurance we have.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. So really, that's it. Like so we talked about all the different kind of like content we do, right? So sometimes we have a show like this, which is like very current eventsy, right? Like it's like, oh, okay, so this happened, and we need to talk about it, and that's great for a monthly show if it lines up, because if the ASAT test had happened next week, then like we wouldn't talk about it. We wouldn't talk about it. So like that kind of sucks. Then sometimes we have a show where it's like we explore like a topic. It's a little more evergreen, I guess, right?
Like if we were a NASA administrator
NASA administrator and we got to decide the budget for the next 5 years. That's a different kind of show, right? But if we do one of those, then it's like 2 months that we don't get to talk about current events. And then sometimes we have a show where we like bring an interesting person on, like the NASA administrator, or
to name one.
And that's a different kind of show. And we just like there's too many kinds of shows for Off-Nominal. So,
but also we just want to hang out more.
And
Let's be real about this. We just want to be hanging out more.
Trying to diversify, right? Business decision. We'll diversify a little bit, get a little more into YouTube. We got podcasts.
YouTubers, as you said in our chat. Yeah, I liked what you said, by the way. To take this now, this is a production meeting. Welcome to the Off-Nominal production meeting, post-show production meeting. Yeah, let's be some YouTubers.
And so so doing it every week will give us more shows to do things. We can be really project spotlights. I'm saying this, I don't know, but like So like there's a lot of, I think, sort of expanding on, which is like some random interesting thing that we find, whatever. But like, what if we brought the person who did that thing onto the show? That's an option. What if it's the book author or the creator of the unmannedspaceflight.com or whatever, right? Like something like that, to just talk about a cool thing that someone is doing.